Oh, we got one more joining us. We got old Kyle Pretzel with us. Why don't you come and stand?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Historical Lights Nightly Chat and Toast. Appreciate you guys joining us again, getting everything loaded up here. We've got our co-host, Brother Robert Marshall, with us this evening. Brother Robert, how you doing today?
Doing all right in Waco.
Fantastic. And we've got a bunch of guests on the show tonight, and all TO brothers, I understand. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
You guys don't mind? Well, one of you is not a stranger to the show. Most Worshipful's on with us. I'm going to let you guys go through and further introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Kupch, past master Interquest Lodge number 456. Tommy?
Tom Briantonis, past master Interquest Lodge 456.
I'm Dale Morrow, past Grandmaster of Grand Lodge of Kansas, past master of Belle Plaine 173, and past master of Tuscan 460.
Fantastic. And do we have another visitor there as well, my brother?
Kyle, you want to step in there?
Oh, sure.
Sounds like we got some geese as well.
We do. We're sitting. We're out on our back balcony. So,
Hello, brothers. Kyle Pretzel, active member of Interquest Lodge number 456.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. Glad to have you here.
thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
We're quite honored.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. Looks like we got a bunch of you joining on as you've been supporting us each and every night throughout this. For those of you that might be joining in for the first time this evening, if you're familiar with Historical Light, we're a YouTube show and podcast focused around the basis of Masonic history. But during this time of the quarantine, 15 minutes or so each night, about 8:45 Central Standard Time, get on, chat with the brothers, share a little bit of history, of course, and we end it off with a traditional 9 p.m. toast. So a lot of you have been joining in and supporting this mission every night. Much appreciate that. And for those of you that are new to it, hey, we welcome you and thank you so much for joining us. We'll hope you'll continue to do so while we continue this mission throughout. So, Brother Robert, down in Waco, what were you up to today?
More work and teaching candidates. Those guys are still coming over to the land and studying from a distance. We stay on either side of the bridge of the creek here at my place, so I don't charge any toll or anything.
He's rocking.
A fair lineup of candidates down there, which is an excellent problem to have.
Yeah, we've had 9 new members since January 1st. Of course, we've been shut down since March. So in January and February, we had 9 new members.
That's fantastic, man. That's awesome. Is that pretty typical for lodges in that area, or are you guys at Waco just really kicking butt?
We seem to just be going through a really positive period here. The average number of new Masons per lodge across the state of Texas is 2 in a year. So you got 700 lodges, and on average, each lodge will get 2 new members per year. 70 or so of those lodges get 0 over the last 5 years. So I don't know what those guys are doing. So just looking at the average, in the first 2 months of this year alone, we quadrupled the annual average for Texas lodges. I don't know exactly what we're doing, but we're going to try to keep doing it.
That's awesome, though, man, especially in a time like this where, guys are fired up to get in, and then it's, kind of a hurry up and wait scenario. We had a 2 days before we went on lockdown, and guys on fire. His wife was all into it, very, very supportive. And then it's just kind of like, but it's going to be a while, and that's always troublesome, because that can be a motivation killer big time. So to hear you guys have really been rocking this time leading up to this is just fantastic, man. I hope that success keeps on for you guys through the remainder of the year after we get out of this mess we're in.
I hope so too.
Well, how the rest of you guys been doing this year with getting new members brought in?
Well, with Interquest, that's really that's kind of difficult to answer because we really don't solicit or anything like that.
Right.
People know about us, and if they're interested, they come check us out. And, you know, sometimes they get what we're trying to do, and unfortunately, a lot of them just really don't. I mean, a traditional observance lodge isn't for everybody, and that's okay. You know, Masonry has so many different things for so many different people. That's what's so great about it. And,
Very well said.
and we love what you're doing. You know, with the way things are, the current events, and everybody being locked down and not really being able to see your lodge brethren. This celebration every night is such an uplifting thing. Thank you for doing this.
Hey, it's our pleasure, man. Me and Robert, we live for this stuff, man. So we're glad to be able to provide that platform. Well, Brother Tony, it looks like you are getting some compliments rolling through about the bow tie collection behind you. I didn't even see it till just now, but
yeah, he's got a nice
another bow tie man in the room. Awesome. Well, Brother Mike, sound like you had some history to share with us this evening. Is that true?
Well, you know, the best laid plans of mice and men. I thought I was going to, and then time got away from me. But I'm going to turn it over to Most Worshipful because he's always ready to deliver great Masonic history or some sort of Masonic.
That for sure, man. Most Worshipful has surprised me on a few times. I've sat down. Once you get that guy talking, he'll blow your socks off.
Well,
No pressure, by the way.
coming in cold here.
Prior proper planning, right?
As far as history goes, how much time we have? About 8 minutes, looks like.
That's right.
So back in the early 1900s, at least for the Grand Lodge of Kansas and across the country, ciphers were a big deal. About 1920, they started really talking about Masonic ciphers in this grand jurisdiction pretty heavily. It was a hot button issue. The Grand Lodge of Vermont was one of the first to actually implement one. Kansas kind of took a look at theirs, but there was illegal ciphers everywhere. Everybody that wanted to make a buck would make a Masonic cipher and start selling it. And it took quite a few years, and you'll still find one still to this day. Some of the old single letter ciphers, if they don't have a serial number in them, they weren't the original deal. All of them were serial numbered when they first put them out, at least in Kansas. I don't know about anywhere else. But that was a topic of discussion for years before they actually let them out. It was a topic of discussion in this grand jurisdiction for almost 15 years before they actually produced a legal version. And then only like 3 per lodge was issued, and each cipher had to be, the serial number was recorded, and the district deputy, when he went to his visit, would have to account for each one of those ciphers. And if the lodge could not account or produce those ciphers, they would send someone to that guy's house and go get it. It was that big a deal. And there was quite a few Masonic trials early on for lost ciphers. And it was Masonic charges, and it became a big deal. And there was a big debate about it for years before it was actually first produced. I understand there's a couple of grand jurisdictions that still don't use them. I have no qualms with that. I'm kind of a traditionalist as well as a ritualist, but it's one of those issues that touched. We had plenty of years even afterwards where the old illegal ciphers were still showing up, and I still see one every once in a while. A guy will bring me a cipher that his great grandfather had, and I'll look at it, and it has nothing in it but the guy's name handwritten. There's no serial number. Doesn't say anything about Kansas or anything else. It's just a plain old cipher with nothing in it to identify it, and you know it was one of them that was sold illegally to begin with. And once you even think about that, you go, how in the world did our own brothers sit there and produce those things and sell them like a black market almost within our own fraternity?
Yeah.
And it really is hard to fathom. But that's exactly what happened. And thankfully, we've come a long way since then, I think. So that's about as good as I can do on very, very short notice here.
Hey, no, that's fantastic. And we've got a couple of those in the archive of the Grand Lodge of Kansas that was shared with me. One of them blew my socks off. It was written in there that it was turned into the Grand Lodge at the end of this guy's life. And you look into it, and it's not a serial number one. It's definitely illegal. It was way on early in the years. It blew my socks off. It took me about the good part of a week before I could actually crack it and read the damn thing. And I'm not going to go into, we don't use that form to this day. I'm not going to go into specifics of what the code was, but it was single letter. And then he also wrote it in multiple different ways. It wasn't just, single letter the right way. I mean, you really had to sit there and like calculate it in your mind before you could make any sense. I was impressed. It hurt my head a little bit. And then finally you're like, holy crap. Oh, I get it. So fantastic. But yeah, crazy history, man. Robert, you guys run into that much in the history of Texas down there?
This is starting to feel like a trap.
Hey man,
So-
you're not being recorded. This
So
is
I'll
not
go
on
ahead.
the
I'll go
internet.
ahead. I'll give you the lowdown for Texas. So Texas had in existence a cipher for a very, very, very long time. They're not just single letter. They actually use different symbols and characters to fill in for various words and things like that. When I came along, nobody told me about it. I didn't know about it at all. I'd actually been a Master Mason for a few years before somebody mentioned something that kind of made my ears perk up, like, wait, what are you talking about? And I finally figured out what it was and asked around until someone let me know that we could go to Barnes & Noble and ask for the secret book behind the counter. And it was interesting. It piqued my curiosity. I'd already learned the work pretty much forwards and backwards without one. So it was mostly just wanting to know what it was all about. So I go to Barnes & Noble and I tell them, I want the code book that you have back there. And the employee at Barnes & Noble kind of perked up and was like, you mean the little blue one? And I was like, I guess, I don't know. And so sure enough, they pulled one out with plastic and I opened it up, and it took me a little while to figure it out. But I did. And that was an unofficial one printed for Texas ritual for several decades. And then about 2 years ago, the Grand Lodge voted to authorize an official sanctioned cipher for the Grand Lodge of Texas ritual. A committee got together and they worked with one of the major Masonic publishing companies and produced one. And our rule now is that EAs and fellow crafts are not allowed to know about it. That's why I said this was kind of like a trap. So hopefully they're not listening. I don't know. But I will say, if there are any EAs or fellow crafts in Texas who listen to this, maybe now you do know that something's out there, but the law says you're not allowed to use it. So it doesn't do any good for you to know about it anyway. There's supposed to be an aid to the memory. as is often described. And since then, the only real discussion I've heard about them in Texas is how many guys have compared them to the older version, the unofficial one from before. And they're all upset because the new one that's supposed to be official and sanctioned and reviewed by our Grand Lodge committee supposedly has like 27 errors in it. And so it's a worse version that we officially produced. But
Wow.
I don't know. Personally, as an individual, I don't like them. I wish they'd never existed. I was able to learn the work without one. I've been able to teach the work without one. Most worshipful referred to it as being traditionalist or ritualist. I don't think they're necessary. And seeing that they're not necessary, I wish they didn't exist, but they do. And I feel like it's kind of like Pandora's box. I don't know how you would put that back in there.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I'm right there with you, though. I wish we could get back to the day and time where, ritual was that solid pastime that didn't require that book. So I'm right there with you. Well, gents, here. We are at 9:01, so we're getting ready to hand it over for the toast. Before we do so, what's everyone toasting with tonight? We got, looks like Robert down the bottom on the screen. You hear me?
I'm drinking Dalmore 12. It's a Scotch.
A little
Fantastic.
Maker's Mark, a little bourbon here.
Glenfiddich, 14-year-old.
Ooh, Glenfiddich.
Glenfiddich.
Nice.
Okay.
I like Glenfiddich. What was that, Tony? What did you have?
This is Tom. I have Maker's Mark bourbon.
Tom, sorry. Maker's Mark. Nice. Very nice. I think that's 2 nights in a row with Maker's Mark.
Fantastic. I switched it up a little bit today, man. We stopped at the store and again, I don't know this stuff, so I'm just going off of the labels that I think look cool. But this is a it's a Scotch whiskey from Scotland, actually, imported from Scotland. So we're gonna give that a whirl tonight. So with that, gents, I'll turn it over.
Hey, I didn't get to say what I'm using.
Oh, I thought you did. You froze up there for a second. What are you going
I'm
with?
using a Dogfish Head sour sea quench. It's black lime and sea salt. Sour beers are my favorite kind of beers. If you've never tried one, I highly recommend it. And it's in a Blue Owl Brewery glass, which is a different brewery, but they only make sours, and they're in Austin.
I'm toasting with an American classic.
Fantastic. Sorry to freeze up with the internet, so couldn't hear you.
Which
All right,
American
brothers, we'll turn it
classic?
over for the toast.
All right. Brothers, raise our glasses high. To our final volley tonight, our cannons freely discharge. Happy to meet, sorry to part. Happy to meet again.
Again.
The Mason Social Brotherhood around the festive board reveal a truth more precious for than the miser's hoard. We freely share our bounteous gifts, our generous hearts contain. Happy to meet, sorry to part.
Happy to meet again.
We Masons meet free and true, and when our work is done, the merry song and social glass is not unduly won. And not until that farewell toast is pleasure mixed with pain. Happy to meet, sorry to part. Happy to meet again. Amidst the mirth, we drink to all poor Masons over the earth. On every shore, our flag of love is gloriously unfurled. We prize each Mason near or far who bore no moral stain. Happy to meet, sorry to part. Happy to meet again. We Masons prize the noble truth the Scottish peasant told, that rank is but a guinea stamp, the man himself the gold. We meet the rich and poor alike, the equal right maintained. Happy to meet, sorry to part.
Happy to meet again.
Dear brethren of the mystic tide, the night is waning fast. Our work is done, our feast is o'er. This toast must be our last. Good night to all, once more good night. Again that farewell strain. Happy to meet, sorry to part. Happy to meet
again.
Love you, brothers.
Love you.
Love
too.
you, brother. Cheers.
Bye.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for the fantastic toast, my
Thank
brother.
you for having us. It was our pleasure indeed.
It was
Hey,
wonderful.
our
Thank
pleasure.
you so much for letting me do that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Well, you did fantastic. So pleasure's all on this end, my brothers. It was fantastic. Well, everybody out there watching, thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. We'll be right back here tomorrow, 8:45 Central Standard Time. Once again, we'll chat with the brothers, share some history, and do that 9 p.m. toast. So until tomorrow, everybody stay safe, be well, take time to save some history. See you guys tomorrow. Cheers.
Cheers.